Unaware his poor wife, Mila Carter, had just inherited $80 billion the same day her billionaire mum died. But at midnight, her own husband Grant dragged her to the door and threw her out into the freezing cold while his mistress Serena stood behind him and laughed like Mila's pain was entertainment. Mila's hands shook around a small duffel bag, her breath turning to white smoke in the dark because she didn't even have a coat. Only the thin cardigan she wore to save money, the same cheap cardigan Grant used to mock when he wanted her to feel small. Inside the apartment, warm lights glowed, a lock clicked, and Serena's laughter rose again. But Mila didn't scream, didn't bang on the door, didn't beg. She just stared at the peephole like it could explain how the man who once promised forever could discard her like trash the moment her world broke. And while Mila stood shivering on the steps, her phone vibrated in her pocket. An unknown number, a message she hadn't earned yet. A secret her billionaire mum had buried so deep, even death couldn't stop it from surfacing. Across town, a lawyer held a key. A vault waited, and a fortune with Mila's name on it sat locked behind steel. But Grant didn't know any of that. He only knew he'd finally freed himself from a poor wife, and Serena believed she'd won. But if Mila was really powerless, why did her mother's last rule echo in her head like a warning? Never tell anyone what you might have. And if Grant threw her out at midnight to break her, why did Mila's next move feel less like survival and more like a decision that would crush them? Who was Mila Carter before she was poor? And what did her billionaire mum leave behind that could turn the freezing cold into the beginning of their downfall? Mila Carter learned the truth about her life in fragments, never all at once, never gently. The morning her mother died, Mila still woke up in the same narrow apartment, beside the same man who complained about the cost of electricity while wearing a watch he couldn't afford to scratch. Grant slept on his back, confident, careless, already late for a life he believed Mila was holding him back from. Mila slid out of bed quietly, the way she always did, trained by years of not taking up space, trained by a mother who believed survival depended on silence. In the bathroom mirror, Mila's eyes were puffy from a night of shallow sleep. Her phone buzzed on the sink. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. Unknown calls usually meant scams or debt collectors, but something in her chest tightened, the same way it used to whenever her mother's voice turned serious, and she'd say, "Listen carefully, baby. The world never warns you twice." Mila answered. "Mrs. Carter," a calm male voice said. "My name is Daniel Rowe. I'm calling regarding Evelyn Hayes. I'm very sorry to inform you that your mother passed early this morning." The words entered Mila's body like cold water poured down her spine. She gripped the edge of the sink until her knuckles whitened. Her mother, Evelyn, was gone. The woman who never hugged for long, who never explained her disappearances, who taught Mila how to count coins and how to count people. Mila's throat tightened. "My mother died." "I'm afraid so," Daniel said, gentle but precise. "And there are instructions that must be handled today, privately." Instructions. Of course there were instructions. Evelyn didn't do anything without a plan. Even grief felt like something Mila was supposed to manage correctly, quietly, without embarrassing herself. Mila lowered her voice automatically even though Grant was still asleep. "What kind of instructions?" "There is an inheritance matter," Daniel said. "I need you to come to my office, alone." Alone. That word hit differently. Evelyn had always insisted Mila handle certain things alone. Doctor, visits, school meetings, even birthdays when money was tight. Mila used to think it was neglect, but in flashes, like sunlight through cracks, Mila remembered her mother's hand smoothing her hair and whispering, not unkindly, "If people see you alone and still can't break you, they fear you." Mila swallowed. "I'll come." She ended the call and stood there, staring at her own face. A memory surfaced without permission. Mila at 14, asking why they never lived in a nicer place, why her mother's shoes were always worn. Evelyn had looked at her for a long time and said, "Because comfort makes you visible, and visibility is expensive." Back then, Mila didn't understand. Now her hands started shaking. She walked back into the bedroom. Grant was awake, scrolling his phone, eyes half open, already irritated at the day for existing. Mila's grief was fresh and raw, but Grant's mood always came first in the apartment, like the air belonged to him. "What's with your face?" Grant muttered. "You look like you've been crying. Don't start the day with drama." Mila's voice came out thin. "My mother died. Grant blinked, then frowned as if she'd told him the internet was down. Your mother, Evelyn? The one who never visits? Mila nodded. Her chest felt hollow. Grant exhaled like he was inconvenienced. Okay, sorry, I guess. He sat up. So what does that mean for us? Are we paying for a funeral? That question, for us, didn't comfort Mila. It sounded like accounting, like every human event had to be weighed against Grant's desire to feel superior. I don't know yet, Mila said carefully. Grant's eyes narrowed. You always don't know. That's your thing. Mila looked away before her face gave her away, because what she did know, what Daniel had hinted, was something she couldn't even process herself, let alone say out loud. Not yet. Not before she understood what Evelyn had built, and what she'd built it to survive. By noon, Mila sat across from Daniel Rowe in a quiet office that smelled like leather and cold air. He didn't offer her a flashy welcome. He offered her water, tissues, and time, like he knew shock needed space to unfold. Daniel slid a folder toward her. Mrs. Carter, I need you to understand that your mother's public identity was not her full identity. Mila's fingers hovered over the folder like it might bite. What are you saying? Daniel's gaze was steady. Evelyn Hayes was a private wealth holder. She owned controlling stakes through layered entities. She instructed me to reveal this only under strict conditions. Mila opened the folder, and the world inside didn't match her life. Company names she'd never heard, percentages, legal seals, signatures. At the bottom of the first page, a figure, 800 billion. Mila's breath stopped. Daniel didn't rush her. $80 billion, he said, quietly. Assets, holdings, and liquid reserve structures. Your mother was one of the wealthiest individuals in the world. Mila stared at the number until it blurred. A sound escaped her, half laugh, half sob, because it was impossible. Her mother who reused tea bags. Her mother who taught her to eat slowly so she'd feel full. Her mother who warned her not to trust gifts. No, Mila whispered. That's not... Daniel slid another document forward, the signature unmistakable. Evelyn's handwriting was sharp, clean, confident. The handwriting Mila had seen on birthday cards that always said simple things like, be wise, not loud. Mila's throat burned. Why would she hide this from me? Daniel's voice softened. She didn't hide it to punish you. She hid it to protect you. And to test the people around you. Test. That word landed like a stone in Mila's stomach because it stitched together every strange rule, every warning, every time Evelyn refused to let Mila bring boyfriends to meet her. Daniel continued, there is a sequence. You can access or move anything until a vault opening tomorrow. Your mother designed it so no one, including a spouse, could interfere before legal control transfers. Mila's pulse thudded. My husband, Grant, can't know. Daniel didn't ask why. He only nodded, like he'd seen this story in other faces. Do not tell him. Do not act differently. If anyone attempts to manipulate the process before tomorrow, the structures can lock and trigger investigations. Investigations. That was a weapon and a warning. Daniel slid a small key across the desk. Plain ring. Worn metal. Nothing that looked like 80 billion. A safety vault, Daniel said. Your mother insisted you open it only after you experience her words. The moment someone finally shows Mila the worst of themselves. Mila's skin prickled, a chill that had nothing to do with weather. Daniel's eyes held hers. Mrs. Carter, has that moment happened? Mila thought of Grant's face that morning. Are we paying for a funeral? Not yet, she almost said, but something inside her whispered, soon. She took the key, feeling fate settle into her palm. When she got home that evening, she moved carefully, like a glass about to shatter. Grant was on the couch. And in the kitchen, laughing too loud, too comfortable, was Serena Vale. Serena's perfume hit Mila before Serena's smile did. Sweet, expensive, aggressive, like a warning wrapped in sugar. Mila, Serena sang, you're home. Grant didn't stand. He glanced at the small grocery bag in Mila's hand and smirked. Let me guess. Discount noodles again. Mila's grief pressed against her ribs. It's what we need. Grant's smile sharpened. No, it's what you need. Because you're stuck in this broke mindset. Serena giggled, sipping juice from Mila's own glass. Like she belonged there. Honestly, Serena said, eyes glittering, some women just don't evolve. Mila's fingers tightened around the bag. She could feel the vault key against her thigh, hidden in her pocket like a secret heartbeat. A flash of memory cut through her. Evelyn's voice, low and clear, years ago. People don't fall in love with you, Mila. They fall in love with what they think you can do for them. Mila looked at Grant, at Serena, at the warmth of the apartment, and somewhere deep, she felt the cold of midnight approaching, like the world was about to show her exactly what her mother meant. Grant's phone buzzed the moment Mila set the grocery bag down. He checked the screen, and a brief, hungry excitement flashed across his face before he wiped it away. Too late for Mila to miss it. He slipped the phone face down like a man hiding a blade. Mila kept her voice steady. "Who keeps texting you?" Grant didn't look up. "Work." Serena's laugh was light, practiced. "Grant is so busy, Mila. You wouldn't understand." Mila nodded slowly as if accepting it, but inside something clicked into place. Not the inheritance. She still couldn't fully believe it, but the pattern. Grant's contempt had been growing for months, and it always rose whenever Serena was near, like he needed an audience for his cruelty. Mila went to the bedroom to put away her shoes. The vault key pressed into her palm, a cold reminder that her mother's words were real. In the closet, she saw Grant's suit bag, newer than anything he'd ever bought for her, hanging like a promise made to someone else. Her breath caught. A flashback hit her hard. The first year of marriage, Grant holding her hands in a cheap restaurant saying, "I love that you're simple. It feels safe." Back then, his admiration sounded sincere. Now it sounded like he'd been studying her weakness. In the living room, Serena's voice floated in, low and intimate. "Tonight, right?" Serena murmured. Grant answered without hesitation. "Tonight." Mila froze. "Tonight what?" She stepped back into the doorway, and both of them looked up like she'd interrupted a private show. Serena's smile didn't even pretend innocence anymore. It sharpened into something triumphant. Grant stood, smooth as a man rehearsed. "Mila, we need to talk." Mila's stomach tightened. "Okay." He walked to the table, picked up a folder, and slapped it down like a verdict. Divorce papers. For a heartbeat, the world went silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. Mila stared at her name printed in bold letters. Her married name, Carter, looking suddenly foreign, like a costume she hadn't chosen. "What is this?" Mila whispered. Grant folded his arms. "It's freedom." Serena leaned forward, voice sugary. "It's inevitable." Mila's throat burned. "Grant, my mother just died." Grant's expression didn't soften. It hardened. "Exactly. You're going to spiral into grief and simplicity and more excuses. I'm not doing it anymore." Mila looked at him, searching for the man she married. "So you're leaving now?" Grant scoffed. "No. You are." Mila blinked. "What?" "You heard me." Grant nodded toward the door. "You have until midnight. Pack your things and go." Mila's hands started shaking. "It's Harmattan season. It gets freezing at night." Serena laughed, one sharp burst, like she couldn't help enjoying it. Grant's eyes glittered. "Then you should have thought of that before you decided being cheap was a personality." Mila's chest rose and fell too fast. She tried to breathe through it. "This is because of her funeral? Because you're worried about money?" Grant's smile turned cruel. "Money?" He laughed like it was the funniest thing she'd ever said. "Mila, you don't even know what money is." The words hit. Different now because she did know. She just couldn't touch it yet. And the fact that Grant didn't know made his arrogance feel like a trap he'd set for himself. Mila backed toward the bedroom, voice thin but controlled. "Let me pack." Grant waved a hand like he was dismissing staff. "Do it quietly." In the bedroom, Mila stuffed clothes into a duffel bag with numb hands. She grabbed her laptop, her mother's scarf, her ID. Every item felt like a piece of her life being peeled away. Her phone vibrated. Daniel Rowe. Mila answered in a whisper. "Hello." Daniel's voice was urgent. "Mrs. Carter, are you safe?" Mila swallowed hard, staring at the bedroom door as if it might explode open. "My husband is divorcing me. He's making me leave at midnight." Silence on the other end. Heavy. Knowing. Then Daniel spoke, careful. "Your mother anticipated a moment like this. Do not tell him. Do not mention anything. Leave. Document everything. Tomorrow, once the vault opens, you will have full control and protection." Mila's eyes burned. "So she planned for me to be thrown out?" Daniel exhaled softly. "She planned for you to see. I'm sorry." Mila ended the call and stood still, duffel bag at her feet. A memory surfaced, Evelyn's voice calm as steel. people show you who they are when they think you have nothing. In the living room, Serena was already putting on lipstick, humming like it was a date night. Grant checked the time. 11:53. Mila walked out, duffel over her shoulder. Grant opened the door, not gently. "Go," he said. The cold slapped Mila's face the moment she stepped into the hallway. Her breath turned to fog. She looked back once, voice trembling despite her effort. "I'll come back for the rest tomorrow." Grant's smile was lazy. "No, you won't." Serena leaned into the doorway beside him, eyes bright with pleasure. "You don't have a home here anymore, Mila." Mila stared at Serena, then at Grant, two faces lit by warm apartment light while she stood on the edge of winter. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. She simply nodded, like she was filing their cruelty away. Grant slammed the door. The lock clicked, and as Mila stepped out into the freezing midnight, her phone vibrated again in her pocket. An unknown number, a message trying to reach her before dawn. While upstairs, the man who threw out his poor wife smiled, completely unaware his wife had inherited $80 billion, and that his next mistake would be his last. Mila stood outside for several seconds after the door locked, not because she didn't know where to go, but because her body needed time to accept what her mind already understood. The cold crept in fast, sharp, and invasive, biting through her thin cardigan and settling into her bones. She hugged the duffel bag tighter, as if it could replace warmth, dignity, or the life she'd just been expelled from. Above her, laughter floated faintly through the walls, Serena's, light and careless, followed by Grant's voice, already relaxed, already unburdened. That sound hurt more than the cold. Mila stepped down onto the sidewalk, her breath uneven, her hands numb. She pulled out her phone and stared at the missed call from an unknown number. Then another vibration, this time a text. "This is Harlan. Your mother asked me to watch over you if this night ever came. Where are you?" Mila's throat closed. Harlan, her mother's former driver, a man Evelyn trusted enough to hand her spare keys, sealed envelopes, and silence. As a child, Mila remembered him waiting patiently in cars while Evelyn disappeared into meetings she never explained. Back then, Mila thought he was just an employee. Now she understood. He was part of the perimeter. Mila typed her location with shaking fingers. Less than 20 minutes later, a black SUV rolled to a quiet stop near the curb. The window lowered, and Harlan's familiar face appeared, older now, lines carved deep by years of discretion and loyalty. "Miss Mila," he said gently, "get in." The warmth inside the car hit her like a wave. Mila collapsed into the seat, and only then did her composure crack. Silent tears slid down her face as her body shook, the shock finally catching up. Harlan didn't ask questions. He drove. As the city lights blurred past, Mila stared out the window, memories surfacing uninvited. Her mother teaching her how to sit still in uncomfortable rooms, how to observe without reacting, how to keep receipts, emotional and literal. "Your mother worried about this," Harlan said quietly. "Not this exact night, but this kind of night." Mila swallowed. "She knew he'd hurt me." "She knew someone would try," Harlan replied. "That's why she built everything the way she did." They arrived at a modest hotel, not luxurious, not obvious, safe, anonymous. Harlan walked Mila to the door and handed her an envelope. "What's this?" Mila asked. "Contacts," he said. "People who answer your mother's name. And now, yours." Inside the room, Mila sat on the bed and opened the envelope. Lawyers, security, financial stewards, names that carried quiet weight. Her phone buzzed violently. Grant, missed call, another, then a message. "Why did a private bank ask for you? What are you hiding?" Mila's heart skipped, but not from fear, from clarity. She didn't respond. Instead, she pulled out the vault key, placed it on the bedside table, and stared at it like it was a promise, finally keeping itself. Outside, the city slept. Upstairs, Grant paced, and for the first time since midnight, Mila felt something warmer than anger rise in her chest. Not revenge, not hatred, but resolve, because the vault would open in the morning. And nothing, not laughter, not locks, not lies, could stop what came next. Morning arrived without mercy. Mila barely slept, not because of fear, but because her mind kept replaying everything she had ignored for years. The subtle humiliations, the jokes disguised as love, the way Grant's voice always sharpened whenever she saved instead of spent. At dawn, she showered, dressed in the same simple clothes, and tucked the vault key into her bag like a quiet oath. Harlan picked her up without a word and drove her to a building that didn't advertise its purpose. No sign, no logo, just steel, silence, and men who checked IDs twice. Inside, the air felt heavier, colder, like secrets had weight. Daniel Rowe was already waiting. "You're right on time," he said, studying Mila's face. "Are you ready?" Mila nodded. She was past shaking now, past disbelief. What her husband had done at midnight had burned something out of her, leaving behind clarity. The vault opened with a low mechanical sigh. Inside were documents, encrypted drives, sealed contracts, and one handwritten letter placed deliberately on top. Mila recognized her mother's handwriting instantly. "If you're reading this, someone has finally shown you who they really are." Mila closed her eyes. "Do not fight them with emotion. Emotion gives them leverage. Fight them with truth and timing." Daniel slid papers toward her. "Once you sign, control transfers immediately." Mila signed. At that exact moment, down to the minute, Grant's phone lit up. Across town, he sat at the kitchen table with Serena, still in her robe, still smug. He frowned at the notification, then another. His bank app refused to load. "What's wrong?" Serena asked. Grant tried again. "It's probably a glitch." Then his phone rang, a number he didn't recognize. "This is your bank's compliance department," a voice said calmly. "Several of your accounts are under review due to suspicious activity connected to your spouse." Grant's face drained of color. "My spouse?" At the same time, Serena's phone buzzed. Her smile faltered as she read. "They canceled the lease upgrade," she said. "They said the guarantor withdrew." Grant stood abruptly. "Mila," he whispered. As if summoned, his doorbell rang. When he opened it, Mila stood there, not shaking, not begging, flanked by a lawyer and a security officer. Grant's voice cracked. "Mila, baby, listen." She held up a folder. "I listened for years." Inside were printed messages, loan applications, forged authorizations, everything Grant had done while calling her cheap. Serena stepped back slowly. "Grant, what did you do?" Mila met Serena's eyes, calm and devastating. "You laughed when I froze outside. That told me who you were." She turned back to Grant. "You threw me out at midnight because you thought I was poor. You were wrong." Grant reached for her. "I didn't know." "That," Mila said softly, "is the point." She stepped away as security moved in. Behind her, Grant's world collapsed, not with shouting, but with silence. Locked accounts, legal notices, and Serena slipping out the door without looking back. Mila walked into the elevator, alone but unbroken. Her mother was right. People show you who they are when they think you have nothing, and when you finally have everything, you decide who stays.